I want to talk a little bit about Seth Rich. And Seth Rich was a 27-year-old who was shot back on July 10th, about a month ago at 4:15 in the morning. 1 second here. Let me make some adjustments to what we're talking about here. So Seth Rich was 27-year-old. He worked for the DNC's voter expansion efforts and described himself as a data analyst. And so he was shot a month ago today, in the morning as he was near Washington, D.C. neighborhood where he lived. The New York Daily News quoted police saying that there's no immediate indication that robbery was the motive in the attack, but it was not ruled out as a possibility. His hands were bruised, his knees were bruised, his face was bruised, and yet he had 2 shots in his back, and they took nothing. The report could be related to 2 other robberies in the city, according to the New York Daily News, in the hours preceding the shooting, both more than 1 mile away. Officers did not say how many times Rich was shot at the time, but said the autopsy reports are not publicly released due to the news media in D.C. So he worked for the DNC voter expansion efforts and described himself as a data analyst. The reason, we mentioned this on the air before. I believe a couple of callers mentioned, and we discussed it. The reason I'm bringing it up again today is because of a video of Julian Assange, basically talking about Seth Rich. And well, I'll let you hear it yourself. I don't want to put words in Assange's mouth. Listen in.
Donald Trump has had a disastrous few weeks. If you look at the polls, he needs a miracle. In the American political lexicon, there's such a thing as the October surprise. The stuff that you're sitting on, is an October surprise in there? Do you even know what you're sitting on?
WikiLeaks never sits on material.
Okay, the voice you're hearing now is Julian Assange.
Whistleblowers go to significant efforts to get us material and often very significant risks. As a 27-year-old works for the DNC, who was shot in the back, murdered just 2 weeks ago for unknown reasons as he was walking down the street in Washington. So
that was just a robbery, I believe, wasn't it?
No, there's no finding. So
what are you suggesting? What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that our sources take risks, and they become concerned to see things occurring like that.
But was he one of your sources then?
Okay, let me pause it there. That is at 58 seconds. I'm going to pause it there because this is now why this story is back in the news. It never really went away in the news. In Philadelphia, Seth Rich's family was there protesting because they believed that foul play was involved. They were there at the rallies in the square. They were at the Green Party rally. They were there the entire week telling their story because no one was really talking about it. And now, because Julian Assange in this clip, he essentially alludes to the reason and for Seth Rich's murder. He sounds like he's connecting it to being related to the DNC email leaks. And because he was the sentiment that you're getting from it is that he is the source. All right. So I want to start the video, and I want to start it at start where we left off. And at this point, I want you to listen to what he's saying in his rebuttal, because that's a strong accusation, right? You're essentially saying that that Seth Rich was your source. So let's listen.
What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that our sources take risks, and they become concerned to see things occurring like that.
But was he one of your sources then?
We don't comment on who our sources are.
But why make the suggestion about a young guy being shot in the streets of Washington?
Because we have to understand how high the stakes are in the United States, and that our sources are, our sources face serious risks. That's why they come to us, so we can protect their anonymity.
But it's quite something to suggest a murder. That's basically what you're doing.
Well, that others have suggested that. We are investigating to understand what happened in that situation with Seth Rich. I think it is a concerning situation. There's not a conclusion yet. We wouldn't be willing to state a conclusion, but we are concerned about it. And more.
All right. All right, so I'm gonna treat Julian Assange with the same lens I would treat everyone else. Like, he's floating this, and at this point, I don't think, you know, was he the person who leaked the emails? Is the sentiment that's coming from this conversation, right? Is that, you know, he's alluding to that this is the person who floated the emails. I don't know why he would have any reason to not just say, yes, Seth Rich was the person and he was likely murdered because of it, right? He has no more commitment to protect Seth because he didn't protect Seth if Seth was his resource. So I just don't have any reason to actually believe that Assange is doing anything but floating this here. Now, this doesn't mean that there's not something here. It doesn't mean that it's, you know, the cause of the murder. We don't know. It is suspicious. And the family wants answers, and they deserve answers. But very little has been said about this. Considering he was a DNC staffer, I believe Hillary Clinton made some allusion to it in one of her speeches a few days ago or last week, talking about the types of murders that don't get any coverage. Well, yeah, this isn't getting any significant coverage, and the coverage it is getting is bucketing everything into the conspiracy theory category. Julian Assange didn't help that out today, right? Julian Assange didn't help it out by floating this without asserting it. So in my opinion, it's like Assange should have just either asserted it or not floated it. Now, this doesn't change anything about the actual leaks that he is supposed to be releasing for an October surprise. So, you know, they have had some substantive leaks. There have been some major revelations that have come from WikiLeaks, to the point where now the Democratic Party is drawing a connection between the leaks and Russia and Putin, and they're, you know, using every tactic they can to not even discredit the leaks, but to distract you from the leaks. Right. So clearly there's something here. But whether or not Assange was appropriate in floating this without asserting this, I can't say. I think it was inappropriate to float this without asserting it, because at that point you don't have a duty to protect Seth. You have a duty to avenge, right, and to set right something that went wrong.